Hi, this is the 14th video of Play Chess and Play Good, and in this video we will be talking about opening principles. It is pretty important to know these opening principles because when you start playing chess, you still need to know how to start off the game, right? Because first of all, if you don't know any openings, your opponent's gonna just beat you because your opponent's probably gonna control the center and do lots of things while you're just pushing your pawns everywhere, and it's probably very bad for you to do that. So here are a few opening principles that you should follow. So the first one is taking control of the center. So maybe you move d4, taking control of these two squares, and then your opponent has no idea what to do, so then he moves here. So this move is kind of just a waste of time. It does control this square, but that square doesn't really matter right now. The center is what matters the most. So now white develops his other pawn, opening up the two bishops, and now it is controlling these squares. And so it's basically controlling the whole center. So every single player that plays pretty good always plays a move that is helpful to the center. Sometimes they don't, but those are little more special things, but we won't get to that. You can decide if you're going to play that opening later, not now. So maybe every single player basically plays e4, d4, c4, or knight f3. So let's start with e4. e4 controls d5 and f5. d4 controls c5 and e5. c4 controls b5 and d5. And the knight controls d4 and e5. You're going to move your knight there. So next is something called 10 golden moves. It might not be 10 moves in here, but ignore that. So notice how every single piece, not these pawns, they're probably still worthful, but so basically every single piece that I'm highlighting right here are controlling the center. These pawns, of course, are still controlling these squares. The bishop is controlling d5 and e5. The knights are controlling these squares. The rooks are supporting these pawns. So is the queen. So that is why the center is very controlled by white. And you don't always have to get to this position because it's probably very high. It's highly unlikely, but if you do, you know that you're winning a lot. So here, the next one is called developing your pieces. So developing your pieces are pretty important. So let's just make a few moves. So you should always develop your knights before bishops unless your opening requires you to develop your bishop first, but that's more advanced stuff. So in general, you should develop your knights first because, well, here it attacks the e-pawn. And now he develops here, and now you develop your bishop. You can also play knight c3, but it's just basically in general. Move your knights before bishops, and you don't always have to move all your knights before bishops. And this is a very common one that beginners tend to play, and it is called the 4-move checkmate, and it's probably very bad. which is, so they basically play this, threatening checkmate, and if your opponent plays something like this, now you just checkmate. But the problem is, if your opponent doesn't fall for this, you will be punished a lot. And so back here, unless you know like a lot about what you're doing, like maybe you're very good at chess, not just a beginner, you're like very good, then you can maybe play this move. Because it puts a lot of psychological pressure on your opponent, because you're like, I gotta win this game. This guy played queen h5. I know it's a really bad move, so I have to beat him. So then if they lose, you'll get really mad. And they're in pressure in the first place when you played this move, so that is why. So I'm not recommending you to play this move, but unless you know what you're doing, you could play this move. So it's basically here. So your opponent can't move this, as I already said. You have a checkmate. The bishop is defending the queen, and the king has nowhere to go. This happens a lot, so you should know what to do against this. So here you play, white played queen h5. So now you play this. The knight is defending the e5 pawn. So if the queen takes, you just lose the queen. And so the queen is trying to checkmate, but then it was blocked by the pawn. So now white wants to do it again. So let's look at development right now. First of all, they developed their bishop, and black developed their knight. It's still pretty normal. Now when they went here, they have to waste a move. Like white wasted a move because queen h5 lets black go here, and then now the queen has to go back right here. Well, they don't have to. They shouldn't actually. But just say your opponent really wants to checkmate you. Now what do you do? So here the best move is playing knight f6, blocking the checkmate again. And now black has developed 2 pieces, and white has developed 2 pieces. But the problem with this piece is that it shouldn't actually be out yet. It's probably more like a weakness than it is an advantage. Because like when you're developing pieces, I know you are supposed to develop pieces, but the queen is too it's too good to lose. So if you're just gonna be moving everywhere with your queen and it gets attacked, you can't defend your queen or something, because the pieces that are attacking it are probably weaker than the queen, so that's why they're not afraid to lose it. So now knight f6, and white plays queen b3. Still wants to take your f7 pawn. So here it will be a very big mistake to play this move, because it's moving the queen again. So now what do? You attack the queen like this. Right here, it doesn't actually really matter if they take the pawn right here, because now when the king goes here, the queen still has to defend the bishop because it is under attack by the king. So where do you put it? You can put it here, but then after this move, now you really lose the queen. Well, not the queen. Now you really lose the bishop. And if you think you can check him, well, he still takes. And it's the same when they go here and you play queen c5. They just take. So here, b5, and you still want to hang on to this pawn too. So you go here, and they just take, and now you're down a bishop, and you're lost. You lost the game, basically. Because first of all, the knight is developed, 2 knights, and they have moved the pawn and the pawn, and it's probably hard. I mean, helping the bishops develop, and well, most of all, you are down a bishop. So the next opening principle is called keeping your king safe. So the king is kind of unsafe here, but is from the other example that your king is unsafe, but the bishop's gonna be gone anyways. So there's also like another example I didn't actually put on here. It's just to castle early. If you castle early, your king will be out of the center, and when the center opens up, then your king is safe, while the center has a lot of action. So another one is you shouldn't move 2 pieces up, like a piece 2 times in the opening. So it's kind of like this. The knight goes here, and you want to attack the f7 pawn. And this is kind of related to keeping your king safe too, because the f7 pawn is pretty weak, and if they take that f7 pawn, your king will be weak. So you castle to protect the pawn. And as I said in the last episode, if you take and then take and this, it's not good for white to make that exchange, because you know why. If you don't, check out the video. So this is also getting the king out of the center, so if they open up the center, it's not going to be too bad for black. And here, black is even doing better. So I hope you understood these opening principles, because they are pretty important if you want to play a good game. And subscribe to my channel, 26 Diagonals. Give the video a like, and bye!